Hello and welcome. As you might know, in most games there is an experience and level up system. So we're gonna implement that in our project, and also there is a few little problems. For example, we should limit the types of unit that is available to train based on our barracks level. So to start, let me stop the project first. In the description of this video you can find the entire source code plus the link to download this file. Let me extract it, and we are going to use the functions inside that script. First of all, let's take care of the data. So here I have added a bunch of new IDs to unit ID. I've also created a few functions. So let's cut all of that. It's a unit ID enum plus 3 functions. I am going to cut them, and let's go to the data on the server side. Let me find the unit ID. I am just going to select that unit ID, remove it, and paste the code here. The functions are new, so you don't have to replace them. And let's save this. Let's go to the client and do the same thing for the data here. This is the data script. I am going to find the unit ID, remove it, and paste the code. So let's take a look. I've added a few unit IDs. As I mentioned, there is also this function called isUnitUnlocked. It takes a unit ID, barracks level, and dark barracks level, and based on that data it is going to return a true or false, and that true or false is the indication of if that unit is available to be trained or not. You can take a look at the code. So that's one, and there's two more functions. It's get next level required XP and get total XP earned. I'm not gonna get into that because I'm not gonna even use it. I just put it there for you just in case you need it. So whenever you want to get the required XP to go to the next level, you just pass the current level to this function and it returns the amount of XP that is required. For example, if you pass 1 as the current level, it will return 30 experiences, which means to reach level 2 you need 30 experiences. Of course, I did some research and used this formula, but if you want to use your own formula, you're more than welcome to do that. So that's for the data class. Now let's go to the server project, this function script, and let's open up the database. So there's also a bunch of functions that we need to add them to database. First of all, let's find this general update async inside our database. That function is already exists. So let's take a look. And here it is, general update async. And let's expand that. So let's go to the functions. And first I am going to cut this general update buildings and add XP. Let me just cut those two functions. And let's just bring them down here so it would be near this original function. So let me collapse add XP and general update buildings. Let's take a look at the general update async here. As you can see, instead of running that SQL statement, I've only called general update buildings. So let's actually just cut all of this and replace it with this one. Or you could just change that line. So that's it. We don't need that function script anymore. Let me close that. So that is it. But for this to work, we need to add a few columns to our database. So let's go to the database. And here in the buildings table, I'm going to go to the structure and I am going to add one column. And let's go and choose a name for it. I am going to choose track time. And it is going to be of type date time, and let's say the default is current time, and let's save this. Also we need to go to the accounts, and here I am going to structure and add two more columns. Let's hit go, and the first one is XP, which stands for experience, and the second one is level. Both of them are integer. The experience by default is 0 and the level by default is 1. And let's save that. So the track time column that we created inside buildings, let's take a look. We need to set that in two different places. So let's go to the server project. The first place we need to set it, here it is in the authenticate player async. So here when we are inserting the first buildings, the initial buildings like the town hall and stuff like that, whenever we create an account for the player, I'm just going to add track time. So let's just copy that, paste it for the rest of the building. And for the value of the track time, I am just going to say now, open and close parenthesis, minus interval 1 hour. 1 hour doesn't really means anything. I just chose 1 hour. You can choose 10 minutes, 3 days, whatever. It's just wanna give it a space to the current date time. So let's just copy that and paste it for the rest of the statements. Now we need to go to the place building async. Let me just collapse that first, and this is place building async. Let me find the statements when we are inserting the buildings. So there is two queries here after spending resources. So for both of them we need to add the track time, and let's do it for the second one as well, that is track time. I still have it copied in my clipboard, so let's paste it here. The value for it will be now minus interval 1 hour. The same thing for this one. And we also need to add one more line here. I am just going to say add XP, the function we just created. We are going to pass the connection, account ID, and building.gained XP. Now from now on, whenever you place a building or upgrade a building, this values inside accounts is going to change. This XP and level are going to change because after you finish that building, you will gain some experience. So let's go and check that actually. Here I am going to start the server, and now let's play the game. And remember, play the game from the start scene, not the game scene. And here we go. Let's go to the database first, and as you can see right now the XP for both accounts are zeros and ones. So let's go ahead and place a building. We have some gold, so I think we could place a elixir mine. So let's do that. So our elixir mine is finished. Let's go and refresh the database. I'm going to refresh the accounts, and as you can see 3 experience has been gained. So I think we need 30 experience to go to level 2. So let's see if we can upgrade anything to get 30 experiences. I think we could upgrade the town hall, but we don't have enough resources. So let's go to the buildings and give ourselves some resources. Here in the town hall, let's say 2000 of that, and 2000 of this, and let's see, we're still short on resources, so let's upgrade something else. I'm just going to instant build that one. Let me upgrade this one, instant build, and let's see how much experience we gained. Here in the accounts, as you can see the XP is 7 now, but the level is 2, which means we reached 30 experience, then the level became 2 and the experience changed to 0 again, and now we can gain more experience for the level 3 and we can keep go on like that. So our experience and level system works. Now let's go and fix a little problem that we have in the unit training. First, here in the scripts UI train, and let's take a look at this initialize. I am going to find all the references, and as you can see it's not being referenced from anywhere. So let's go to the set status and call that from here. I'm gonna say initialize, and that's gonna take care of that. Let's also go to the UI unit and open that up as well. And here I am going to create a private boolean and name it canTrain, and let's set it to false by default. And let's do some changes inside our initialize. So first we need two integers. The first one is barracks level and the second one is dark barracks level. Now to get those levels we are going to do a for loop. We're gonna say player dot instance dot data dot buildings dot count, and now we check this building ID. Let me just copy that. So buildings I dot ID equals to underline ID, well actually equals to data building ID dot barracks. In that case we are going to say barracks level equals to building I dot level. Let me copy that, paste it here and make it an else if. And if it's the dark barracks, we don't have a dark barracks in our building ID, so let's go and create it. Go to buildings ID and here barracks, I am going to say dark barracks. Let's actually copy that and paste it for our server as well. So I am going to stop the server here in the data. Let's find the building ID, and here after barracks I am just gonna add the dark barracks. So let's go back to the client and let's find the function that we were working on here in the UI train, well actually UI unit. Instead of that we are going to say dark barracks, and instead of this we are going to say dark barracks level. And here let's add an extra if condition. If barracks level is greater than 0 and dark barracks level greater than 0, in that case just break the for loop and we can just say canTrain equals to data dot is units unlocked. We're just gonna pass the ID barracks level and dark barracks level, and here we have a button. As you can see we are saying the button dot interactable equals to canTrain. Now let's play the server. Now play the game. Let's go to the barracks and try to train units. As you can see the units that we can't train are unavailable for us, and let's go ahead and upgrade our barracks. Just gonna instant build this one and let's go and train it. So now the archers are available for us as well, so that's also one problem fixed. Now let me stop the client and the server. Let's go to the database. So this is enough for this video. I'm not gonna change anything else. So before I end this, let me explain about a few things. So let's go and find one of the scripts. Let's go and find, let's say, battle. So inside the battle script, we have a bunch of new lists. So this is the list of the buildings. This is the list of units that are currently in the game and fighting. But this is the list of units that you place them on the grid and they are in the process of being placed on the grid. This is also a list of projectiles, which means, for example, an archer shoots an arrow. The arrow is not gonna hit the target immediately. It's gonna travel some distance and hits the target. That arrow, whenever it gets shot, it's gonna be placed inside this list, and whenever it's gonna reach its destination, if the target is still alive, if it's dead, then nothing. But if it's still alive, it's gonna hit that target and it's gonna be removed from this list afterwards. This is the first list that is going to be populated, so all the buildings will be placed in this list. So let's take a look at the functions. So the functions like this, get looted resources, they pretty much explain themselves. You can just take a look at the calculations and know what they are doing. The same thing for here for the get trophies. So let me collapse this functions. This is the classes. This is the projectile class. So let me collapse this and this one and this one. You can take a look at those classes. So here it is. This initialize is the first function we call. So whenever we create the battle, we are going to pass the buildings. We are going to pass a date time, which is not really important. It's just the base time we can use to determine how much time has been passed. And there are some callbacks that by default are null, and pretty much their name explains themselves. So for example, a star gained, whenever a star has been gained, this function is going to be called. Or for example, whenever a building gets destroyed, this function is going to be called. We are setting them to null on the server side because we don't want any callbacks on the server side, but we are setting them in the client side. So that is the callbacks, but this is the buildings, and this is the underlying buildings list. So we're gonna equal that to the building that is being passed because we want to save it. So let's go further down. Here inside this for loop, we are setting the blocked tiles. This is also a list. So basically we are going to add every tile that is blocked to this list, and we remove that tiles from this list whenever a building is destroyed. So whenever a building is destroyed, the tiles of that building is going to be removed from this list. So that is for initialize. So initialize is the first function that we are going to call. So these functions also explain themselves. So let me just collapse them. So here it is, add unit. So whenever you want to add a unit to the battle, you're going to call this function. So it takes a unit, which is the data of that unit, a position of X and Y, which means where do you want to place that, and of course the callbacks. So there are a bunch of callbacks. For example, if your unit dies, this is going to be called. And we set these functions on only client side. We don't need any of these callbacks on the server side. So whenever you call this add unit and you pass that unit, we are going to create an instance of unit to add class. You can take a look at that class. It's up there. So we're going to say unit to add is going to be a new unit to add. And this unit to add, we're going to assign the unit, which is this one, but of course this unit is of type battle unit, so we kind of convert that to that unit, and we're gonna assign that battle unit to this. We are assigning the X and Y, and we are going to add this unit to the units to add. We're not gonna assign it to the units. Let's go up there. This is the units that are on the grid and fighting. This is the units that been placed but haven't been actually placed in the battle yet, and this happens in a fraction of a second, so don't think it is going to take a long time. No, it all happens in less than a second. So first it's going to be added to this, and after that it's going to be added to that one. First of all, let's focus on this units to add. So we're gonna add that to that list. So it is in this list. It haven't started to fight in the battle yet. It's just been placed into this units to add. So that is the add unit. So let me collapse that. And this is the execute frame. So you can call this 10 times in 1 second, or you can call this 10 times in 1 millisecond. It doesn't matter. Or you can call this 10 times in 1 hour. It makes no difference at the end. At the end, you called 1 second of the battle, because 10 frames multiplied by battle frame rate is 1 second. You called that 10 times, so 1 second of the battle has been passed. That's it. Of course, a lot of things happens on handle building and handle unit. So basically the core of the game is going to be happening inside these two functions. Both of those functions are going to call a lot of other functions. So first let's take a look at this and collapse them. So we have handle buildings, and of course there are other functions. but it's not complete yet. It needs a lot of work, so we are going to change this. There is a lot of things that we haven't considered, and this path, actually let's take a look at the A star pathfinding, just in case you want to use it in a separate project. So basically, if you want to use this in a separate project, all you need to do is just copy this A star pathfinding folder. So you copy that in another project, or you can use it in this project. It is already exists. You don't need any other of these functions. You don't even need the battle or anything else. You just need the scripts inside this folder. So, and how you can call it, let's go to the battle script. Up there, if you take a look, we have a star search, which exists within the namespace of A star pathfinding, and also grid. This also exists inside the A star pathfinding namespace. So whenever you want to use A star pathfinding, you're gonna define a grid and you're gonna define a star search. So you need two variables for that, and let's take a look. Here it is, one reference, for example. So in the start function or initialize function, or any function that is going to be called only once, you don't want to call this every frame, just once to initialize it. You are going to say grid equals to new grid, and you're going to give it a size. So for example, this is 45 and 45. It's a vector 2. So basically, after you called that, you initialized that, you're going to say search. You're going to also create the search. We're going to say search equals to new A star search, and you're going to pass the grid. So that is the grid. And after that, it's done. You can call that anytime you want to find a path. And one thing you should consider, that this grid that you just created, all the tiles on this grid are not blocked. So if you want to block a certain tile, all you need to do is to say grid, and you're gonna pass an X and Y just like this. Dot blocked equals to true. So when you want to block tiles, you're gonna use this. Or even if you want to unblock a tile, you're gonna set it to false. So all of this basically happens in the start function, or you can call it anywhere you want based on what you're trying to do. So basically, after you initialize your grid and search, then you can use search to find a path between any 2 points on the grid. To do that, you're going to be using search. Let me find all the references for an example. Here it is, an example. So you're gonna say search.find, and you're gonna pass two vector to int. And remember, this is not unity vector to int. It's just vector to int inside the A star pathfinding. And then you can just convert it to list. You don't even have to convert it if you don't want to. Let's go to the find, go to the definition. It is going to return an array of the cell, and let's go to this cell. Let's go to the definition. It has a bunch of data like location, and the location is the X and Y. So basically that's how you're gonna use A star pathfinding. I thought you might need it in another project, so that's it. So I'm going to stop here. Hopefully in the next videos I could start working on the basics of the clan and clan wars and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and if you had any questions, feel free to ask me. Have fun and thanks for watching.